Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here and you take time to listen into the podcast each week. And because you've been listening to the podcast, we've been ranked in the top 5% of all podcasts globally, according to Listen Notes. So thank you. And if you will continue your support, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast and also leave us a review. Give us a 5-star review and that'll help us keep going. All right. So now today I'm talking with Lisa L. Levy. Now let me tell you a little bit about Lisa. Lisa is the founder and CEO of L Cubed Consulting. She's the author of the #1 best-selling book, Future Proofing Cubed. And she's the creator of the Adaptive Transformation Framework, which is her proprietary framework that boosts productivity. She is on a mission to transfer her expertise directly to leadership teams, creating businesses that thrive without the founder's constant involvement. And if that isn't enough, Lisa has been recognized as one of the top 50 female leaders in Phoenix by Women We Admire. She's been on the top 10 women leaders by Industry Era, and L Cube was recognized as a top change management consulting company by HR Tech Outlook. Welcome, Lisa Levy.
Dr. Robin, thank you so much for inviting me to the show.
I'm so glad you're here, and I can't wait to get into this. Now, you heard me read your a bit of your introduction. Now, you tell us in your own words a little bit more about what you do
Mhm.
and who you are. So you can do them in either order: who you are and what you do.
All right, so I am the self-proclaimed disruption and innovation catalyst. With my work with L Cubed Consulting, we really want to help leaders, whether it's a founder, an owner, a CEO, a director inside of an organization, understand how to create self-reliance in their teams so that teams are doing the work that they were hired to do without everybody feeling the need to be micromanaged or to actually be the micromanager. And so, with this practice, with the adaptive transformation framework, which while it's proprietary in that we call it the adaptive transformation framework, it's based on best practices that are used in large organizations around the globe and have been for decades. We're all about project management, process management, organizational change, and understanding controls and processes so that things are effective and efficient. Nothing that we do is super secret. It exists out in the world everywhere. But what my team is dedicated to doing is taking those ideas, making them consumable to anybody inside of any business, and working across teams so that everybody is focused on the thing that matters most in every business. And you're going, well, Lisa, what do you think that is? Well, I think that's what is your customers want and need from you. And so if your customers and clients are at the center of your business's universe, every step, every activity, everything needs to drive value to them, or why would you waste the time, money, and effort to do it? So that's what we do. That's a little bit about how we do it. And the why we do it is I came up in larger companies and I watched a lot of people spend a lot of time doing what I think is the wrong thing and bringing in consultants. And yes, I know I'm one of those today, but bringing in consultants to build silos, to make the sales team the best sales team and the marketing team the best marketing team and operations the best operations or IT the best IT without ever understanding what happened to the left of them or to the right of them and what that best of means to everything else. So I am all about finding leaders wherever they may sit inside of any business who want to challenge that status quo to make a positive impact for their end customer.
So it sounds like you're good at helping people work together collaboratively, bringing the collaboration of the teams together.
It is imperative that all of the teams work together because if we're not working together, inadvertently, we're working at cross purposes and we're wasting time, money, energy, um, it means nothing to anybody unless you're just in your silo looking down at your feet and saying, I was told to put my left foot in front of my right foot and repeat. What does that do for anybody?
Yes, you're right. So now how did you get into this work? It's very particular. What led you to doing this work?
So the short version of the long story, I have a degree in video production. That when I graduated from college, I thought that would be the stepping stone to becoming a film director, and I was going to do make amazing movies that changed the world and made people laugh and made people cry. And I realized that with a degree in video production in the mid 1990s, I could go to work for McDonald's and make more money than I could using my degree. And I was like, that really sucks. What else can I do with this degree? And I accidentally found my way into IT and into the practice of project management. Video production is a project. And so that degree transferred directly into a whole new sphere that I had no idea of, that I totally did not understand technology, but I understood the basics of project management. You have to have something that you want to change, to plan how you're going to do it. You have to execute that plan. You have to deal with all of the things that don't go according to plan, and especially the things that you never even thought might happen. Get it done and move on to the next thing. That's project management. It doesn't matter what industry you do it in. Those are the basic steps. Oversimplified, yep, but still the basic steps. And that sent me on a path and on a journey. And I worked through several different roles, building into being the director of a project management organization for a company that was a startup. It was growing, it was emerging, it was all of the things I ever wanted anything to be. And I hated going to work every day. I was driving to work, holding the steering wheel, tears running down my face, going, oh my God, I hate what I'm doing. And I hated it because what I sort of described a few minutes ago, right? It was the perfect organization and everything I always thought I wanted. But every C-level executive had a team of consultants surrounding them, focused on how to make that team the most successful, most impactful, get the biggest bonuses. And I was there to deliver projects across all business functions collaboratively to drive results for that company's customers. And nobody in that organization wanted to partner with me to do that because it would have diminished their bonuses. And so I had what I love calling an adult temper tantrum. Shy of actually sitting on the ground, screaming hysterically, pounding my feet, and waving my arms in the air like a child, I did have a very lengthy conversation with the CEO and said, you brought me in to do something. You've created an environment where everything that you've asked me to do, I cannot do. It is absolutely not possible for me to influence the change you're asking for unless you, as the leader, change the mindset of your C-suite team. And he's like, sales is delivering numbers through the roof, marketing is, and going down all of the reasons why each of these silos was doing everything that they were supposed to be doing. I said, thank you. Would you offer me a package to leave? And he said, yes. And so I walked away and said, I can do something better and I can do something different. And I created L Cubed to change what consulting organizations were doing. Because that idea of building a team inside of an environment, expanding so that you're driving more and more revenue to the consulting company is, in my mind, a catastrophic disgrace. And all of the big four consultants do this. And I say this all the time, and someday somebody's going to call me out on it. But I think it stinks. And I think it's bad practice. Consultants are there to enable people and teams to do things differently tomorrow than they do them today. And we should be building, helping them build their skills and their capabilities so that they can do those things without a consulting presence at all. We're there like we're there for a short duration of time to help them improve, and then we're supposed to go away. That's success in my book when we finish and we walk away, and that business is doing something different than they had been before. And if they call us back when they have another problem, that's fantastic. I always want to help solve another problem, but I don't want to embed a team there forever. That's just not beneficial to anybody. And my P&L probably could be a much healthier, more robust thing if I did the other model, but it's not the right model.
You have to do what's true for you.
Yeah,
All right, so let me see if I have it clear. You talked about that experience when you were just you hated the work
yeah.
before you started LQ. Was that independent work? Were you working for a company when you were doing that, or work?
I was the director of the program management office. I had been brought in to build that idea to help them deliver projects. So it was a step in organizational maturity for them where things would become, we would build processes, things would become repeatable. There would be a portfolio of projects, things that we would plan, do, move on to the next thing. And all of that required cross-functional participation, which they were not ready to do.
Were you an employee of that?
Absolutely.
So that's
I
when
walked away from stock options. I walked away from equity. I walked away from the potential of an IPO. I walked away from all of that.
what gave you the courage to do that? Because that's not an easy thing to do.
That's the thing that I want the audience to really understand. I made an impulsive decision. I made a rash decision in a highly emotionally driven, charged state of mind. And I walked away with no plan, and nobody should do what I did. I'm going to say it again, right? Nobody should just cut and run without a plan. By trade and training, I plan things for a living. I have a list for my list for my list. Everything is always thought out. But in this situation, I was just done. And I would love to say that there was enough forethought that it was for my psychological well being. It was for, no, it was impulsive. It was impulsive and stupid. If you're in those positions where you're frustrated and you're thinking about something else, my counsel, having been there and done this isn't advice, it's counsel. This is lessons learned. Take a breath, take a beat, create a plan, give yourself a runway of time to understand what it is you're about to do. And part of that plan requires a financial strategy and understanding what that runway is. And this is my advice because I didn't do this. Whatever that number is that you think you need to sustain for like a year, double it because of all of the unknown things that are going to happen along the way, double it. When you know what that number is, if you have it or you don't have it, at least the decisions you make from that point forward are based on knowing what could happen around you. I just cut and ran. The beautiful thing at that moment in my life, I had nobody dependent on me. I was single, I was alone. I had to put a roof over my head, I had to feed myself, and I had a dog that required some care and maintenance. But the risks that I were taking were for me and for me only. Was not jeopardizing my family or in any way, shape, or form. So while it was impetuous, it's 16 years later, and it hasn't been without its bumps. And it hasn't been without years of going, early years of, I don't know how I'm going to pay my mortgage in 3 months, but I figured it out. And it is a rocky journey. And being an entrepreneur, starting a business, being a business owner is not glamorous and it's not easy. And movies and television, and we see lots of stories that make it look so sexy. No, it's long, long days, hard work, questioning yourself and your sanity along the way. But when you find the groove, it's also freedom and it's independence. And it's saying the in this journey, once the business was running, one of the most transformational experiences I had was the first time I got to fire a client because it's my business, they're my values, and I don't have to compromise for them The way that when you're an employee inside of an organization, sometimes we compromise on our beliefs because that's the way you do it and that's what's expected. And if you're going to keep this job, you're going to do, fill in the blank, whatever it is that you might not want to do. The day I fired my first client was so liberating. I had gone into a client environment. I had a team with me. The individual at the helm of that organization was a reprehensible human being. He was a misogynist. He was an anti-Semitic individual. He gloated about how he strong-armed his contract labor into billing for 40 hours but working 50. And everything about the environment was, on one hand, illegal, on another hand, disgusting. And I had enough and had the conversation. I'd love to call it a conversation, but we were standing in the lobby of an office building and he was screaming at me. If I didn't stay until it was Friday afternoon, until the task was done, there would be no reason for me to come back on Monday. I took myself and my team, and we left the building shortly thereafter. And on Monday morning, I went back in without my team and turned in our laptops, our badges, and all of these things and explained to him that we don't need his business. It was fantastic.
Freedom.
It was fantastic.
Okay, so now let's go back a little bit. All
Yep.
right, so that was a moment of freedom and liberation. You
Yeah.
can do your own thing. All right, you said you made the decision to leave the other company,
Mm.
and you said, okay, wouldn't recommend people do that. All right, now you had a choice at that time. You could have tried to work for someone else, but you created your own company. How'd you get to that? Was it something you had thought about before, or had it been in the back of your mind? Had you done it before? Tell us more about that.
So it was the exact thing I thought I would never do. For context, my parents, when I was growing up, were in real estate. My father was a broker, was a developer. My mother was the broker and the general contractor for the developments for all of the things. I came from an entrepreneurial background. I rode the roller coaster, feast or famine, good years, lean years, bad years. I wanted a job with paid time off, with holidays, with a 401k, with retirement, with all of the things that sounded like security to me. One of the things that we're all learning, and in mid to late 90s, when I started on my career, that all still sounded really great. In the early 2000s, we're starting to see nobody continued to work for a corporation like, for 25 years and having an entire career and retiring from that, which was a norm a decade or two before that, right? The market had changed and the illusion of security had been shattered. And I had been through a layoff previously and things that had happened. And I went, there are no guarantees. They don't care about me as much as I care about me. And I think that I can do something better than what they are all doing in their consulting practices. So why would I want to go and work for one of them when I hate what they do? I'm going to solve this problem. I'm going to solve the puzzle and I'm going to do it for myself. And so it was up until that point, I would have described myself as being risk averse. And making a decision to open my own business was stepping into uncertainty. It was stepping into being very uncomfortable, but assuming risks that I had control over mitigating. And I had never thought of it that way before. And that was I don't know if we had some really cool graphic, right, where all the pieces chunk, 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 boom, and the big light bulb went off over my head. I have more control of my own outcomes when I have more control over my own outcomes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
All right, so now you're doing that and you have control over your own outcomes and you're doing L cube. Would you say you have a sense of purpose in your work?
I do. And the purpose that I have, right, is always tied to my clients' customers' needs. But I have a belief and something, a principle that we work from, and that is we only work with disruptive leaders. Disruptive to me in this context are leaders who are challenging the norms around them to make a positive impact. It's very intentionally being disruptive for greater good. We have a lot of noise in our world around us. There are lots of disruptive personalities who get lots of media airtime. Those aren't the disruptive leaders that I'm necessarily talking about. I'm talking about the people who say, we have this problem to solve for our client. We have this opportunity to make a difference. How do we do it? How do we solve this equation? How do we solve the puzzle? And that's where we get to do the cool things that drive results, that make an impact, um, that change outcomes for the end clients and customers. And that's what our purpose is. I can design, and I'm looking at your stickies behind you on the wall, right? I have a belief that with a couple of pads of sticky notes and some pens, right, we can solve any of the world's problems. Boxes and arrows, we can do all of that. But if it doesn't come with making a tangible result for the business's clients, who cares? So that's the purpose, to drive better client and customer outcomes for our clients.
It sounds like it's important to make a meaningful difference and have meaningful impact for them. And by
It's
the way, the sticky notes for people who are watching and or listening, that's an outline of a book that I'm finishing up. And it's an actual working outline slash storyboard. And you can't see it where you're sitting, Lisa, but they're columns. These are
oh,
columns. Each column is a different chapter and they have themes. And I actually look at that to determine if I said everything in my Word documents that I want to say. So that's what that's all about. Okay. All right. So now this podcast, as you know, is leadership purpose.
yeah.
And so there are women out there who are what I call high achieving women.
Mm,
And this is my definition of a high achieving woman because we say it's a general term. So different people might have different definitions. In my definition, she is responsible.
mhm.
She's ambitious in a positive way. She's the one that people come to, and she could be any number of these. It don't have to be everything I'm laying out to you. Like, some of these. People come to her in her professional life and ask for her advice or suggestions about a thing, whether it's related to her work or not. And in her home life, whether it's a community, neighbor, family, what event, whatever the thing is, people tend to come to her to get her thoughts on whatever the thing is. And on top of all that, she's good at a couple of things. And she's doing all the things. All right, so this is the high achieving woman I'm referring to. And someone listening fits one or all of those and is now thinking about there must be more. What I'm doing right now is not working in terms of the level of fulfillment I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the job, I have the business,
Hmm.
but there seems to be something missing. So that's who we're talking to right now. And I know you say you don't give advice. So what would your counsel be for someone in that situation?
So, one of the things that I do regularly, that we do in the practice with our clients, and that I believe that every person, every leader, every rate, we're all capable of doing this. I'll be honest, it's more fun when there's a group. But from the very personal level, let's talk about it. And the idea is that for those really disruptive people, right, those leaders out there who want to make a positive impact, so there's something more for me. I want them to learn how to create and run an innovation engine for themselves. So, the practice that we do, it's a three-step process. The first step is ideation. Create a list of ideas, big ideas, little ideas, flat out crazy ideas of things that could be possible for you. And just spend 20 minutes creating a list and make it as big and bold as you want to. And the challenge for the women that you just described in doing this is they're going to overthink each of the things that they want to put on that list. And my this is not counsel, this is direction. Do not overthink what you're doing. This is ideation, it's brainstorming. Create the crazy list. I want to hike Kilimanjaro. I want to create a foundation that feeds 1 million people in the next 10 years. Whatever those things are, put it down. Don't think about it. Stream of consciousness, just start creating the list. If you're a write it on paper person, if you're a stand in front of a whiteboard person, if you have to type it up, if you need sticky notes, however your creativity flows, do it. Then set them aside for a day or two. Then come back to that list and start organizing it. And now I'm giving you the permission to think about them. You're going to find a percentage of them that are absolutely insane. There is no way that you are ever going to build a house on the moon in this lifetime. Don't throw it away. Put it to the right hand side. Leave it there to keep thinking about it because that's inspiration for something. We just don't know what that something is yet. And then look at the rest of them and find one or two of them that you think in the next month, 3 months, 6 months, you could play with making something like that happen. You're probably going to have a handful of those or two handfuls, right? 10 things. Put them on the left side and the rest of them just put somewhere. Look at the list of 10 things that might be possible. And I'm doing air quotes for those of you who aren't watching. They might be possible. Pick one or two and sit down in your quiet, most creative space and start to plan what it would take to make that real. And again, the guidelines here are don't overthink it, don't talk yourself out of it. With no constraints, with no constraints, what would it take to make it real? And play with that. Of those two that you're playing with, one is going to seem a smidge more realistic potentially than the other. And that's the one that you need to really look at and think about and say, gosh, is this actually important enough to me that I want to make it real? And then you're going from the second step, which I didn't do a good job of defining, but that's sort of this interpersonal prototyping. If you're doing it in a group, I'd call it conference room prototyping. But what does it take to make that real? It's just that thought exercise. And now we're going to go to step 3 and we're going to experiment with that one thing that looked like it was actually doable. And I'm not telling you to do it yet. We're experimenting with it. Now you're going to talk to people about it, your friends, your family, your coworkers, the people you trust most, the people who are going to reflect back to you the things that you might need to hear about this, whether they're good, bad, or ugly. They're going to give you that feedback. And you're going to do that and elicit those responses for the next week or two. Maybe it's a month, depending on how busy you are. But at the end of that time, you're going to go, yep, I'm going to make this happen. Or nope, that was a really bad idea, and you're going to wad it up and throw it away. No harm, no foul. You thought it through, and you're going to go back to that other one, and you're going to try that one. And you're going to go through these thought exercises. And how long you spend on it, it can be days or weeks, depending on if they're big things. It could be a month. But if you continuously go through this 3-step process, you are coming up with things that are important to you, that will make the changes and impact that are important to you, and you will start to plan them out. And you will find them, you will do them, you will accomplish them, and you will move on and you'll do it again. That's what you do for personally. Think about what you do with that if your team at work, if you were doing that with your team there, right? This exponentially gets bigger and more impactful. But the point, an innovation engine can be highly personal, or it can be something that drives a business to grow and scale into the future. So there's a depth and a breadth to this that you can make it as big or as small as it needs to be and have a real impact.
I mean, so you just gave a master class.
In 5 minutes or less.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, you've just been generous with your time and your wisdom throughout this conversation. Now, before we tell people how they can get in touch with you, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to share? Is there one more thing or one more thought? It doesn't have to have one, but just thought. If there is something, this is your opportunity.
Sure. Let me just sort of pull the thread to try and, wrap up the things that I've talked about, right? And through my journey, right, sometimes things start impulsively and we don't necessarily know what it is that we're doing or why that we're doing, but we go on it, we start on a journey. For me, the journey is really important. The good, the bad, the ugly. One of my favorite phrases because the reality of life is there's good, there's bad, there's ugly. And we have to navigate through all of it. But if we embrace and learn how to step into being uncomfortable and navigating through discomfort, we can accomplish anything. And those high performing women who are listening in the audience, we are a force to be reckoned with. There are statistics that share that in 2030 and beyond, women in the world will hold what more wealth than men. It is a paradigm shift that's coming, and there is no reason to not be a part of it. And I just saw that this morning, and I can't tell you, I can't cite the source, but it was intriguing to me that that reality is 5 years away. That's an economic change and shift. So if you, as a woman, are in this place where you're thinking about going on this journey, stop, think it through, create the plan, take action. We can do anything if we do those things.
A true project manager at heart. All right, so where can people find your book and or follow you?
Absolutely. Future Proofing Cubed is available on Amazon. The easiest and best way to find me is on LinkedIn. It's Lisa L. Levy, Lev as in Victor Y. The middle initial is important. It makes it easier to find me. And if what I've talked about today speaks to you and you want to dig in and understand more about Innovation Engine and what it could mean to you, message me in LinkedIn. Just all you have to do is put the word innovation in the message. I'll know what you want to talk about and why you want to talk. I'll share a PDF that explains the Innovation Engine with you. And if that is impactful, I'm happy to schedule a time to dig in deeper and have an innovation clarity call.
Thank you for being here, Lisa. Really appreciate you.
This
Okay,
was fabulous. Thank you, Dr. Robin.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you were here. Okay, everyone, and I'd love to hear your response to this episode. If you have just any questions, what you thought, what worked for you, highlights, what takeaways, and I'm on all channels at Robin L. Owens, PhD. But I spend most of my time, like Lisa, on LinkedIn, and there I am still at Robin L. Owens, PhD. So I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, this is Dr. Robin.